What do we want to talk about? Denise, what can we talk about?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I stopped in to see what everybody else was on.
All right, sounds good.
What does Bob want to talk about?
Bob? I didn't have anything planned. So
I don't really have anything.
was there Amy on too?
She was, and she popped out.
She popped off. Okay.
Sorry about that. Diane's watching it and she just went into the kitchen.
Okay. Anything you guys want me to talk about or cover? Hey, Bob, by the way, that listing in Hastings, that acreage property,
Yes,
when you have more info, I have a buyer that might be interested. I'd love to know more.
okay, absolutely. Like I said, we're there from like 4 to 6 tonight, I think. So the one thing maybe, and I don't know if you can talk to some in the meeting this morning, you had mentioned something about the sellers can always say, hey, I'm not going to accept 360, but you can counter at 370. But you don't have to provide any proof.
Yeah.
If someone goes with an escalation clause, they still have to provide proof, correct?
No.
No, okay,
So think of it as you have 5 offers and you look at all 5 offers and 3 of the 5 have escalation clauses and one of those 3 has the best offer, but it's still not meeting seller expectations. Right?
okay,
And the seller's like, I really wish we got 370, but so here's what happens, at least that I've seen. The house is listed at 325 and you get 5 offers and they're all at like 325 to 340. And then one of them has an escalation clause that's like $5,000 over up to 360. But none of the other offers were more than 325 or 340. So that $5,000 over would only get you to 345. And even though the escalation clause caps at 360, the sellers might say, well, I want 370.
right,
And let's pretend none of them have escalation clauses, because it doesn't matter if they do or not. If your seller wants 370 and all the other offers came in at doesn't matter what, you can pick one offer that you like the terms, you like the down payment, you like their earnest money, the closing date, and go back and say, my seller wants 370. They're willing to work with you if you can come up to 370. And if they say, well, our escalation clause didn't go that high, just be like, well, that's what our counter is. That's
right.
what the seller's counter is. I mean, simply just like that. You're disregarding the original terms of the offer all the way around. And you're just counter offering based on what the sellers want.
Gotcha. We actually had the flip side. We had the buyer, and I think the price on the property was 650. They came in with an offer of 660 with an escalation clause up to 675. There was only one other offer, and that was at 655. But the seller still came back and said, but kind of like, quote unquote, we know your buyers can afford 675, so we want 675. And actually almost killed the deal because our buyers kind of said, what the heck,
How'd you know what the other price was though? That was dumb of them to tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know. And it was actually Diane's deal, so she can talk to it better once she's done making lunch, but.
So again, that scenario is a great example of how we as agents need to remember what little our clients actually need to know. So in that case, even though they came back and said, we know you can afford this, we want you to pay this, it's 675 is what we want, adding that component, and I'm not saying that anyone did, but it's just a reminder of, if you go back to your buyers and say they're countering at 675, that sounds a whole lot different than they know you can pay 675, so they want you to pay 675. I mean, just like those 2 statements alone evoke different emotions from the recipient of the message.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure Diane didn't go back to them with that, but just between us, it was kind of my feeling that's what was going on. And I think, Denise, the reason she knew is because in the offer that she put in with the escalation clause, it said, we need to see page 1, 4, and 5 that actually show from the other PA that actually show what they what the other offer was to justify us escalating up to 675. Well, it didn't escalate it up there, but that's what they countered at. So it was just different. We haven't seen that before.
And I would say it's totally fine to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. And your buy, just as much as the sellers can do it, your buyers can say no.
Correct. Yep.
So it's, and, I mean, furthermore,
That's a little close.
furthermore, oh, he's on there, that's right. Furthermore, I would say if 675 didn't work, I would say to the buyer, what can you, what do you want to come back at? If not 675, then what? And if they,
Oh, sure.
if they want to stick, you know, I mean, it's all this massaging, right?
Yeah, and they only had 2 offers and she knew it, so she had a good place to.
Yeah.
negotiate.
I guess the bottom line is all I was trying to say was, you do not have to provide proof. And you, even if you ask proof, you aren't necessarily going to get it. And if you have a high C client, especially a buyer client, they're going to want to see proof. And that is up to you as an agent to manage that client as a high C, the high data-driven client,
Right.
that they're not necessarily going to get that. Sellers want what sellers want, and buyers either say yes or no,
Right.
or counter again. Yeah, exactly.
So what about an escalation? We've had this conversation. So if you've got 2 or 3 escalations on the listing side, I've always been of the mind they escalate each other, right? Or am I thinking of that?
When I have 3 escalations, let's pretend that they all come in at 440.
Yeah.
Or 5,000 over, right? Or there's one at 2,500, one at 3,000, one at 5,000, but they're all at 440.
Yeah.
There is no escalation over the other. The one at 5,000 over should in theory win, right?
Mhm.
But the way that I look at it is if one says up to 450, another one says up to 457, and one says to 475, I look at the strongest offers, the cap, the highest cap. And then that's how I would counsel my sellers to say, you can look at this, and they have escalation clauses don't scare me. I'm actually like, bring them on. And because my seller will counter to whatever they want.
Mhm.
Well, now that I know that, no reason to be scared of them anymore, because I mean, I used to tell them, just, you know, this is the highest offer, that's the one you should take, without knowing that I could.
They can counter whatever they want.
Yeah, and talk to all 3.
Well, here, you could have 5 offers, and one offer is the best offer, but it has the worst terms.
Yeah.
You can take the best terms and the best offer price and counter that one.
Mhm.
Just counter anyone you want in whatever way that you
You
want.
counter one at a time.
One at a time
Okay,
only,
so that's,
only.
someone was saying that Wisconsin is different and they can do a bunch of them at once. So you're still you're only working with one until you run out the.
In
string on that.
Minnesota. Yep,
And you'll kind of have to tell the other ones. goodbye,
Nothing.
Right? Well, or nothing.
I tell them nothing.
You tell them
Not
nothing.
I tell them nothing until I have a signed agreement.
Okay. So
And-
you can technically be working with your best offer and not let the other ones know until it's done. I was under the assumption you had to tell the other ones goodbye and you finish off, but tell the other ones, hey, you know, like if you're second or third.
Well, don't even talk
keep
to
your
them.
phone available. Yeah, but
Don't even tell them.
Yeah.
don't even tell them until it's.
Don't even tell them.
So if I've got a deadline, I usually do my deadlines either at night or like around noon. And you know, I won't do morning deadlines, I'll whatever, noon or 8 PM. And you pretty much haven't, I mean, at least the way that I do is I send them to my clients, they know along the way. And then we do a recap of, you've seen them all as they've come in. And then I tell when I do my deadlines, if I do an 8 PM deadline, I'll say, you'll know by 8 PM the next day, our response.
Hmm.
So I send the expectation of response time in my notification of when offers are due. And then if it's noon, I'll say noon the next day, right? And so that gives me my time to negotiate with one or switch to another before everyone else knows. So then they're not bugging me.
Mm.
I always do the same thing. I tell them.
Yeah.
We'll be presenting at 6 and you'll know by, I'll say you'll know by, we'll be presenting at 8, I present at 6. So I have time.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I'm
I
not-
give myself 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I never know what the other side is gonna do to counteract, like to respond. And if they don't give me an answer right away, then I'm just sitting there waiting and everyone's getting peed, you know, like, and so I So like the point is you're in control. You get to set whatever you want. And just because you present at 8 doesn't mean you owe anyone an answer, even that day.
Right.
Or 6 or whatever the time
Kind
is.
to set the expectation about when you will, you don't have to,
Right.
that minute.
Right. And if I get 10, I might tell the lowest 5. They're gonna work with another offer.
Yeah.
Just to eliminate that
Yeah.
conversation, just to be like, you guys keep looking. You don't have to wait because you're holding your breath for no reason. But there's no escalation clauses. I'm like, bring any offer. I know what my sellers want. If my sellers don't get it, I'll just counter to the best terms and say, this is what this is the sales price my seller wants with the best
I
terms.
think people are surprised if you counter with something over asking, right? Because
I have not had any pushback on it in this market the last couple of years. I mean, I had one that was listed at 249.9 and the highest offer was 260. And my seller came to me and said, I want 270. And I was like, you got nothing justifying that. Like, why are you being crazy? And my job is to represent the seller.
Yeah.
So I went back to the best offer at 260 and they said, she'll sell it to you for 270. That's all I said. They didn't ask any other questions and it closed at 270.
nice. Well, it's not.
It can be done.
hard. It's not that hard. You can do it.
You can do
It's
it.
just a little bit of a mind shift, but hopefully most of the time you look at your spreadsheet and one of them is by far the nicest, best offer, they could just take that one. But to just counsel them to say, if none of these meet your needs, we can pick one and.
You can pick any one of them and counter any of the terms. So I've gone back and changed price and inspection, can you offer appraisal gap? You can counter any of the terms. You don't have to just work with one. And I think as the
One term.
market's shifting more, I think we're going to be faced with those conversations a whole lot more because we're not going to be getting these like silver platter type offers for our sellers.
Mhm. But there's gonna be a lot of agents who don't get that this is a thing
Right.
and are gonna be mad.
Well, the thing is sellers, all they've heard is, oh, we're getting 20, 30 grand over, so it's our job to counsel them a little bit.
You know what else is really interesting? There's a lot of people that are hearing that. There's also a lot of people that have no idea what's going on in our market, right? Like we know what's going on in our market. We know what's going on with interest rates. We need to not do ourselves a disservice by going in thinking everyone thinks the sky is falling, that interest rates have jumped up and sellers are getting silver platter offers, right? There's plenty of people that are not plugged into what's going on in real estate. I mean, even really savvy people that have sold, transacted multiple pieces of real estate. So just remember, we can take ourselves out of our industry and just answer the questions that they have and make our industry look better than it is, or better than what our brain is telling us that we're in a shifting market,
You
right?
don't need to know that.
It's hard to get that kind of, we have these conversations amongst us, but what I rely on a lot with my buyers, I say, okay, here's what's closed in and closed is dated information, right? 30 days or so dated. Here's to show what's over, in this neighborhood, I give them a spreadsheet. This is what's closed in the last 6 months, and this is what's won. And, and a lot of times you're surprised that there isn't that many 30s and 40s over, right? Everyone tells that one story, and that gets repeated. But now,
Yeah, but that's.
we don't,
A lot of my people hear that, so then
Yeah.
you gotta readjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the fact.
Here's the fact.
Yeah, maybe a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, 4-bath home sold or whatever.
Yeah.
But here's the facts right here.
Right.
but now with the shift, we don't have the real data
don't have-
yet, right? Because if everything's shifted in the last, say, 3 weeks, we don't have that closed information yet.
We don't have
We have our discussions that say, yeah, we're not seeing as much.
We don't have the data for that.
You know what though? You have days on market
Yeah.
that you can look at and that'll trend
Right,
differently.
if something hasn't sold in a week, then, nowadays.
If it's not pending in less
Yeah.
than 7 days,
Yeah.
that is a huge indicator,
You can
right?
Show them, look at all these houses that are still on the market.
Mhm.
Or,
This is your house.
or listing
Right.
And don't let
depend,
this be your house.
right, exactly. Or list date to pen date.
Yeah.
The longer that goes up, that means the shorter the gap between the list price and the sale
Mhm.
price. Right?
Yeah.
So there's data there. It's about interpretation. It's
Yeah.
not just about the closed data.
That's good, yeah.
And that's our competition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think market time, and then I also think tracking price reductions.
Yeah.
Mm.
Tracking price reductions in the market. Because if we are seeing price reductions, it means that homes are selling for less. And they may be in pending active status or pending status, but not closed yet. And again,
Oh, also in the notes where it says multiples received. Doesn't say that.
oh, it's not saying that as much anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think I mean, the market shifting, and even though we might not have the data, just remember the value of your experience
Yeah.
just as much as the data can, because here, and I'll challenge you one more. If you look at the disc profiles, because I rely on the disc a ton,
Mhm.
depending on who I'm talking to, the Ds, just tell me what to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Is, make them feel good about what they offer. Right? The S's, just let them think about it. They're not going to make a decision fast no matter what you do.
Mhm.
And the C's, they want those spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you look at how they lead in their personality, you can tell how you can best support them in providing them info. And those high D personalities, get in, get to the point, get out of my way. It doesn't even matter if you have the spreadsheets, because they're like, I'm not looking at that. I mean,
Which one's best?
which one's, but what do
I
I
was
do?
gonna say
Just
the
what do I do?
S's. Sometimes I would have thought the S's are like, you're the expert, Denise. You just tell me what you think. It's kind of an S thing.
That's, well, okay, we're more than one letter. We're always more than one letter, but it's about how they lead with their personality. The S's think about it, and they don't give you a lot of indication of what they're thinking. And they want to think about it. And again, you can't force it. Nothing is on your timeline, it's on their timeline. That's like quintessentially an S. The I is, if they talk with their hands, they're an I, and you got to make them feel really good about what they're thinking and what they're doing and what they want. And oh my gosh, it's so cute. And you can be influential with them. And then C's are like, don't talk. I just want to look at the paper. So it's just different in how you approach them, even though, and again, we all show up as far as who we are in our complex, different letters combinations, right? But just because we show up how we are doesn't mean that's what resonates with them. But if you find yourself looking back on your clientele and you think about your favorites are typically the same personality as you. So, you have to employ all the different ways of educating your clients. And it's not always the same. They're not always going to receive it.
Hey, quick question for you. We got in a discussion the other day with a few of us on, you're out showing homes all weekend. What's your recommendation or guideline on putting multiple offers in on different properties?
On more than one house.
Yeah,
You know what?
that's what we thought you'd do with your head.
One of my most important tenets in life is if you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question.
I wasn't asking, it was for someone else.
Well, your friend. You're asking for your friend, huh, Bob?
But something that we've always said no, but now we just know the chance of some offers being accepted are so low, but yet we still are waiting, but yet we found another house. And we've had a lot of people that have rescinded their offers because they got an offer accepted on another house. So that was done, so we just were kind of curious your take on that.
I've got to run, I've got to cancel 4 offers.
It's not ethical, and it is against our code of ethics.
Okay,
What you choose to do, you have to figure out if you're going to get caught or not.
yeah, like Diane said, we haven't done it, but a few of us agents were talking and someone had said, hey, I do that, not all the time, but I have done it before because we've lost out on so many, so.
It's unethical, and that's like the bottom line. At the end of the day, if your client knows that and they want to try and they know that they're going to have to rescind offers and, kind of, dance around the situation. I guess I've ran into clients that have asked me to do that, and I'm like, okay, here's the deal. You only really want one house. even though you're putting offers in on 3 houses, my thought is, studying psychology like I have, it's not about getting any house, it's about getting the house that you actually want. And if you have a client that's like, I really want both of them, so either one would be a win, I would probably bend my ethical guidelines to allow for that, but it's never happened, because as soon as I challenge them on, I mean, here's the reality, if you write 3 offers, they only really want one of them.
Right.
And the backups are like, just to win something usually, and so they'll likely back out of those, even if they get them. Because they have to be really pressed to know, like, how bad do you want it? Do you want it so bad? You should like put your best foot forward with the one you want so bad. So, and that's really why it's unethical, because it's like, it's not really honest that that's the one house they want to buy if they're putting in the multiple offers on multiple different properties. So, you know, if one's a Saturday deadline, one's a Sunday deadline, and one's a Monday deadline, you know, you could easily have them teed up, ready to go. I mean, I think there's ways that you could work around it, but I would strongly suggest not getting involved in it, because it's the offer you're writing itself isn't really ethical and honest, because there's other offers that could, because any one of them could be accepted at any time, and they could be stuck into 2 or 3 or 4 offers. That's really why it's unethical, you know?
Right.
So it depends on how much you want to manage that. Just, you know, you can do it. It's just not the right thing to do.
Thanks, Bob.
Sorry, Denise.
I have a question about love letters. Now I'm worried. For a while there, when they did write a love letter, I would say, you know, don't put your familial status in there. Don't just tell them why you like the house.
Yes.
And this last time I forgot.
To tell them.
Yeah, and she wrote that she's a pastor. They're expecting babies. They're expecting twin babies. And they talked about how much they love the house. But they also talked about pastor, babies, how far it is to work, all of those nice things. And the guy told me they picked yours because she's a pastor. Now what?
So it's really it could be an issue as a buyer's agent. Yes, it's a bigger issue as a listing agent. It's a much bigger issue as a listing agent. So the protected classes under fair housing are, you can't discriminate based on. So it's not necessarily who they pick, it's about who they don't pick. Right. That's really where the fair housing violation comes in, because it could be perceived as discrimination against a protected class. So if you've got a family that they didn't pick yours, and they're a pastor, but they picked someone else that wasn't, your people could file a fair housing
The other way.
complaint,
Sure.
because
didn't
they
pick us 'cause we're
were
a pastor.
discriminated against based on their religious status. And so when you're allowing your people to put that stuff in, I mean, really it comes back on the listing agent because the listing agent should limit the clients from knowing that. Again, it's happening that we're using love letters, and it's happening that they work.
Yeah.
But what's not happening and will happen is a disgruntled buyer.
Yeah.
And I actually had one out, and I did not get a love letter. Okay, so my house was listed at 335. Yeah, 335. And I got 3 or 4 offers, and one offer was, when was that? The fall of 2020. And so it was before we had like a crazy uptick, and we had these 4 offers, and one was like 345, and then one was like 360. And this was before we were seeing stuff at that price. The sellers got spooked because they thought it was unrealistic, and they just didn't want to take a risk, appraisal risk, lack of follow through, whatever. The story is though that the buyers had lost on a bunch of offers, and they were just really putting their best foot forward out there to get this house, and they way overbid on the house. Had they sent a letter and we picked a lower offer, they would have had a case, because there was, they were of a certain ethnic class or racial class that it could have been perceived that they had a better offer, they had better terms, they had like better, And they had, I mean, I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't, that's not what it was about. My sellers genuinely were scared at how overpriced that it was. But you heard Zimmer's example of the first people came in and we went with the first people. Well, imagine if the 2nd through 10th people were could fall under some protected class, but they took the first one, right? Like, it doesn't matter what your seller says. If you expose your seller to those love letters, and those love letters give information about anything in a protected class, that's where the issue lies, are the people that don't win.
Your sellers could potentially look at their names. and
Yeah,
we
I
got
try
stuff
not to-
From there, so
I agree.
there's other ways around that. but
I agree.
But you guys, I don't show them the purchase agreement. I show them the
I
spreadsheet.
do a spreadsheet too.
And so they don't
But-
see any names, they don't see any love letters until after it's done. I don't even sometimes put the agent name if that can.
Potentially
Right,
sway it.
so they're only looking at the numbers.
Yeah, and you're right, it could be named, and those would be all ways of you protecting your client from, and yourself from a
Yeah.
fair housing issue.
I actually tell
Absolutely.
them that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we did discuss like the video recording. How do you navigate? I guess now there's Ring cameras.
Oh, they can see who's
They
coming in.
can see
They can
exactly
if they're-
who's
if they have
coming
brown
in,
skin.
and they can hear names when you're if anyone says a name. So
So it's all about it, like, ultimately, the fair housing protection is about not discriminating based on any of those classes, right? And so the example that I gave you was one where they were within a protected class, they gave the best offer and the sellers didn't pick them. If they wanted to file a case, I mean, the agent was trying to pin me in a corner to say something incriminating that would be reason for them to come after me and potentially the sellers. But I just said the sellers selected the offer that they had full choice of selecting their offer, right? So it all comes down to how can you prove that someone was discriminated against within a protected class, right? And it's up to the client that feels discriminated against. And it's not just in offers and negotiations. I mean, there's a lot of ways of having it happen. And yes, that's another way to data gather, like to get that information, but the onus is on the agent. Because like the case would be like, you're a listing agent and you have offers that come in and you give them a spreadsheet and they're like, well, who was that couple that came at 5 o'clock on Saturday? Be like, well, we don't talk about who the clients are. These are just the terms of the offer and their qualifications and everything else. If you do all of that, there's no chance that you could get could they file a case? Yeah, but you have
You're not
your
gonna-
record keeping of how you do it. Me, on the other hand, I give my clients all the purchase agreements because I'm always trying to give full disclosure of like, this is a real purchase agreement. These are real people. These are the real terms. These are the real, for some reason, it seems like there's a lot of skepticism out there from people, from clients, from, that they just like, what do we really have? What do we have going on?
Interesting.
So I'm always, and again, I think it's great to do a spreadsheet. I've never, but if anyone ever said anything to me, like, I don't want the Johnsons moving into my neighborhood, I'd be like, you can't make a decision based on their last name. So like, we are the gatekeepers of that, of the protection of the protected classes. So. Yes.
Sometimes I don't know, not all the time. I should do it all the time, but I try to work it into the conversation about fair housing and it's very important that we don't discriminate. Therefore, I'm not going to show you the names and I'm not going to show you the love letters. And if you asked, I won't be able to tell you and it means so much to me that, if you were to try to do that, then we couldn't work together. And most of the time I tell that to everybody. I mean, I tell to the people I love, just so they know that that's how strongly I feel about being fair. But I suppose I have
That's
to do
good.
it every time.
I mean, I think so. I think it's better that you are fair every time and
Yeah, I
consistent
mean,
every
I
time.
am fair and consistent every time, but do I tell them that
Every time.
every
right,
time when I'm talking to a listing?
Right.
Probably best to work that in.
And sometimes people want people to buy their house for their own romantic reason of who's gonna live in their house, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason for fair housing
Yeah.
protection. It's the reason why redlining is not okay. It's the reason why steering is not okay. I mean, it doesn't matter what the sellers want or has emotionally. It's about making a business decision in the transaction, and we tread lightly through that
Same-
process.
Same on the other side, when the buyer says, I just want a safe neighborhood with the kids. No, I almost, I'm like, no, don't say that.
I know,
You can't ask me that.
I know.
And they're like, why not? And then I get to say, that's not fair.
So let me tell you my script that I use to try to just kind of give to understand fair housing. But now that I'm listening to you guys, I'm thinking that they are not a protected class. But this is what I say. So we had a listing in Evermore, 680,000, got 2 offers, both 680,000. One of them sent a letter of a picture of this young couple and their 2 big dogs, and how much they couldn't wait for the dogs to play in the acre property behind the house. And our client said, I don't want any dogs in this house. I've taken such good care of it. I'm picking that other offer because I don't want dogs in my house. So I've always used that to say, that's an example of discrimination. But they aren't a protected class. So I guess she could say that. Yeah, okay.
Discriminate against dogs. I'd discriminate against cats if it were my choice.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's a great example for clarity of clarity of something that's not a touchy subject.
Right.
So you could use it, but you could be like, here are the protected classes.
Sure.
And you say, replace dogs with children, religious affiliations, races, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So I
definitely.
mean, it's a good story because dogs are not, dogs are neutral, right? Dogs are neutral. The other ones are not. So I think it's a great, easy script where people could relate, because you'd be like, I don't want dogs in my house or cats in my house or birds in my house or whatever, but those aren't protected classes.
Yep. got it.
Whose choice is it really then? Is it our choice or their choice on the love letters? I mean, since we're the ones that are technically at risk.
We're the
right?
gatekeeper.
And so could we say, listen, because this puts me at risk, I'm saying no love letters. I mean, what I tell them is, listen, if you want to see the love letters, I'll show you the one that you selected. After we go through the spreadsheet, you pick the one, and then I'll show you that one afterwards, if they wrote one. Because I always tell them, listen, I'm two-faced on this. I have every buyer write just the sappiest darn love letter, and it's worked a lot.
Yep.
I said, but would you walk next door and give your neighbor $5,000 right now? I said, you wouldn't. You probably wouldn't do that for your kids. Why would you do that for some complete stranger? Take 5 or 10,000. It's 10,000 out of your bank account.
Yeah.
I said, so if you want to see who's moving to your house, we'll take the love letters. And then once we've selected, I'll show you that one and none of the other ones. I said, because I'm at risk here if you base your decision off.
On any of them.
And not even I'm at risk. I'm not going to do that because that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Well,
mean,
but
can you
here's the
say
deal.
no? I mean, could we say
good
no?
Yeah, you can.
Okay,
Yeah,
And-
it's just like the whole disclosure requirement as a listing
Mhm.
agent. What you know about the house, you are required to disclose regardless of whether or not the seller wants you to, right? Same thing, you can say, I don't want love letters. I will not show my client love letters. I do not want myself or my client in a position to face a fair housing issue. The only thing I'll say is just be mindful of whatever you do with the love letters, that you record keep in some way, shape, or form, so if you're running into a scenario where you've got multiple offers and you're communicating with your client, put it in writing. That I've received love letters. I'm not going to show you the love letters. I don't want you making your decision based on the love letters. If you'd like to see the one of the offer you selected after, like that whole script you just gave, that's a great one, but put it in writing,
Mhm.
because how else it'd be your word against anyone else's that,
Right.
how did you handle it? No, I'm not super scared of this. I'm just saying it's going to start happening, that people are going to get, it's a tough battle. I mean, it's a tough thing for someone to pursue, but at the same time, it's like, let's err on the side of caution.
And
And
it knocks us back because then we have to go back and try to prove that we didn't do it,
yes,
even though the onus is on them to prove that we did. But it's
we still have to prove that we didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, who I am as a buyer's agent and who I am as a listing agent, they're two different agents.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
I write different terms in my agreement than I would ever agree to as a listing agent, because we never know who we're in a relationship with on the other side, right? Like I get away with all kinds of stuff as a buyer's agent.
Oh, like what?
Oh my, I mean, like no commitment dates and,
Oh.
I personally think that every single listing agent should make the buyer assume any pending assessments or even levied assessments that are on the taxes. Like, why should a seller just have to pay off a assessment, like a road work or something like that? So
Mhm.
what I ask for on the listing side versus what I.
Oh, yeah. As a buy side, you just automatically click seller
Yeah.
shall pay seller.
And
shall pay.
and every single offer, I ask for a warranty, even when it's this market, and I usually get them, because they're like, oh, it's, $500-700, something like that. They don't even notice it half the time.
Right.
And then they end up paying for it at the closing.
I'm looking around to see. Can we talk about warranties? I would never ask for one. There's no value added for me.
Oh, I
in
use
my
them all the
experience.
time.
Really?
I probably have them on 90% of my transactions.
I've never had luck with one after the fact.
How so?
There's a warranty on something and they call and they have to pay $65 to have the plumber come. The plumber says it's not my problem. So then they have to call the heating guy and another $65 before they find someone who will fix it. That was,
So here's my take on that. You have someone to call.
Mm.
And it's only going to cost you 50, 65 or $100, and you have someone to call in all aspects of your home. When you buy a house without a warranty, there's nobody to call. The phone book is who you can look up.
oh, no, I haven't called me and I got a guy.
I'm sure, but I don't want those calls.
Oh, yeah, no,
I
none of
have
people-
those people too.
Yeah.
And they get mad that I've just spent 100 or I've just spent 50 or 75 or whatever it is. But when they replace the furnace or they replace the fridge or they fix the garage door opener or fix the washer, nobody's complaining about that
True.
$75 or whatever it is, the deductible.
Mhm.
Coldwell Banker used to be a really big supporter of warranties, like partner with HSA.
Mm.
And they used to come in and present to us on a regular basis. And the payout rate in the first year of warranties was 101%. So and it was not every single warranty got paid out on, but some got paid out on 3, some got paid out on none, right? But they were a losing, it was a losing venture in the first year, but it was the renewals that made them their money, because they had such a good experience the first year that they renewed them the next year. And when I heard 101% payout, I'm like, that's amazing, because that means that a lot of people are getting things covered. Everything in your house is a pre-existing condition, so they're not going to deny it. And if you have an inspection, or if it was, all it is was it working when you saw the house last? As long as it was working when you saw the house last to the best of your ability, they'll cover it. Now, not all warranty companies are made the same. Some of them do different payout or coverage terms and stuff like that. And even if you read the language, sounds like I'm a freaking warranty salesperson. It's a peace of mind thing for me. And it's such a gift for my people that they think that they're just protected and covered, and they literally have someone to call. But what was I gonna say? I don't know. I lost it.
You're gonna tell me where to sign up?
Yeah. It's a peace of mind. Oh, I know. It was the coverage amount, not to exceed $1,500. That's wholesale prices. So they'll pay $1,500 towards a furnace, which would be a $3,000 to $8,000 furnace, but because labor charges are not included in their max payout. So the language, the way it reads, it looks like it's not that much of a coverage, like you're paying $700 for a $1,500 payout, but it's actually I know multiple clients of mine that have gotten furnaces, air conditioners, refrigerators, washers, garage door, and that covers plumbing, it covers electrical, so you got flickering lights, you got, all kinds of stuff. Plumbing, it just covers all kinds of stuff. And it just takes a little bit of a burden off of me, because I don't always have people
Okay, yeah.
that's ready to go, you know, and my electrician, $140
All right.
to go.
Mhm.
HVAC is gonna be a minimum charge,
Mhm.
65, $70.
Mhm.
And then when they're calling me and I'm providing that name, then they want me to pay that. Clients will think, well, who pays for that? You know, it's like you do, you're the homeowner. So when it's a warranty and it got bought for them, and whether I bought it or, but usually it's the seller that buys it. And I put warranties on houses where there's like old mechanicals on the house and you could do seller coverage. And
Yeah,
then
so
it-
it starts the day that you put
You
it on
list
the
it.
market or what? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good one.
And I will also, okay, in this market, I use warranties in place of inspections, especially on townhouses. Because the exterior is all covered by the
Mhm.
association. So I put warranties on the townhouses. The buyers will buy them themselves. They're great, because then if something is wrong, even if an inspector found it, they don't fix it. The same amount of money almost that you spend on an inspection, you can transfer to a warranty. And like Trent was saying in the meeting today, the buyers were making the offer, they were gonna put the warranty on the house for the sellers. So for the rest of the listing period, the sellers would be covered and then it covers the buyers. That's a
That's a
cool,
good one. Yeah.
cool add-on.
And multiples, that's a really good one.
Yeah, so I throw those in, and if it doesn't get there, you know, sometimes I add them, sometimes I don't, but they're just a great buffer. I don't know who to call for a garage door opener.
Oh,
I don't wanna
Dawn
call,
Door.
but I don't even, again, like, it's just one of those, they have one number to call.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're right, 65 here, 65 there, but
Yeah.
they still have someone to call.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're not all equal.
And that was a long time ago too.
Yeah, I think it's worth revisiting and worth, especially in this market, with the way buyers are being treated. Truly, when they get a warranty, they feel like someone's treating them nicely.
Mhm.
What else? Anything else? No?
That's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks for sticking
Oh,
around.
thanks, Alexis.
Diane, did I tell you that my out of country client doesn't want to look till the middle of May, so.
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, I hope we're still not on the market then.
No, that's what I told her. That one will be gone, but there will be others.
There'll
Yeah,
be others, that's right.
yeah.
Oh, sounds good. Well, thanks, Alexis. Good
You're
question.
welcome. Thanks for sticking
Thank you.
around.
Yeah, ate my omelet while I listened.
Haha. See you later.